Any discussion on the floor amendment? Representative Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support.
In support for floor amendment number 12. Representative Ward, please
Mr.
proceed.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the supposed superiority of the SB1, even in its HD1 form, leaves a lot to be desired. The religious protections are better than it was, but I think I noted that it was a plastic shield or maybe a plastic to a tin shield. But who it really forgets is the believer or the one of faith who's a small businessman. And this amendment is all about protecting our small businesses, particularly 5 employees or less. We know there are multiple lawsuits. Again, empirical evidence. I'm an empiricist. If it doesn't have numbers or experience, it's all fantasy. This is not fantasy. From cake makers to florists to other receptionist services. Mr. Speaker, those people have asked for help. First was the protection of the clergy, second was the children, and the third are these individuals. Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of this for the sake of the individuals, for the sake of those who are uncertain, and those lawsuits even now are being, under the civil unions, perpetuated, particularly a bed and breakfast in my own district. This amendment, in effect, is to amend the law of discrimination in public accommodation by ensuring that private individuals, sole proprietorships, and owners of small businesses, as I said, under 5 employees, are protected from any type of civil or criminal liability. Mr. Speaker, this is necessary as the clergy may be 1% of the faith community, but 99% of the faith community is out there. This doesn't even cover a number of them, but some of the professionals, the small business, the self-employed. This will give them some cover to genuinely continue to practice their faith. The way the bill is now, it's a zero-sum game. What rights are given to one are taken away from another, or people feel like they have not been considered, or what about me? That's some of the small business cry that we've heard in the last few days. And people will say, well, none of the other 14 states who have same-sex marriage have this in the bill. Mr. Speaker, we always consider ourselves unique. We're different. We're Hawaii. We're Ohana. We can do it.
15 states. Illinois just passed
sorry,
those
15
yesterday.
states. And District of Columbia. And Argentina and so on. Mr. Speaker, we consider ourselves unique. We can be unique by not having to say, well, they don't have it in. That doesn't mean we can't have it in. But we need to face the small business reality of what's going on. Now, for lawyers, this is going to be, I think, as one of the testifiers said, Judge Elwin, this is a lawyer's dream. And Mr. Speaker, we should be taking his counsel. He said, bad legislation creates much litigation. And when all this stuff fills the courts, it's going to reflect back on us. We never really did our job. And right now, this is nowhere protected for those who are in small business or those who are individual proprietors. For that sake and for that group, Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Ward. Representative McDermott.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to have the comments of the previous speaker inserted in the journal as my own.
So ordered.
And the businessman needs protection. I anticipate we'll hear speeches comparing it to refusing to serve someone, the Selma lunch counter, refusing to serve an African American based on their benign genetic skin color. They walk in, oh, we're not serving you. As opposed to a private behavior, I'm thinking of someone maybe renting their house and they don't want that sort of lifestyle and environment and the friends that come along with it, and they have to explain to their kids what's going on. So I stand in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further, Representative Fale.
Mr. Speaker, if I can just have the words of the representative from Hawaii Kai and the representative of EVA inserted to the journal as my own, Mr.
Yes,
Speaker.
in support of the floor amendment. Yes, thank you, Representative Fale. Further discussion, members? Seeing none, members, we're going to go to a voice vote. Again, this is going to be for floor amendment number 12. Members, we're going to take a voice vote. Vote aye if you favor the floor amendment. Vote no if you oppose the floor amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say no. The floor amendment has failed. Representative Ward.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to have a third amendment that I would propose.
Yes, Mr. Clerk, have copies of the floor amendment been distributed to the members? I believe that's floor amendment number 13.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, copies of floor amendment number 13 have been distributed.
Thank you very much. Representative Ward for the motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of the resolution to have a carve-out of the churches in the public accommodation statute.
For the floor amendment, do I have a second for the floor amendment? A motion for the floor amendment, Representative
I
McDermott.
second the motion.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the proposed floor amendment, Representative Ward?
Speaker, I rise in favor of the measure.
In support, please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I am prompted to introduce this because of the testimony of two individuals. One individual spoke for 2 hours when the Judiciary and the Financial Committee questioned him. This was the Attorney General, David Louis. 2 hours he submitted questions, but unfortunately, when it came to the public accommodations law and the protection of churches, he, like I'm swaying back and forth, was never a steady, this is the way it is and this is the way the courts are going to be kept out of it, or this is the way the churches are going to be protected. His uncertainty, Mr. Speaker, as to the protection of the churches told me that unless we carve out, and this is what this amendment does, it carves out the churches and said, you are not part of the public accommodations. It makes it very clear. The second is a good friend from East Honolulu. He's the head of the Civil Rights Commission. And Mr. Speaker, you know that that is the one that's going to implement this particular bill, or the SB1 HD1. And basically the Civil Rights Commissioner said that, you know, no matter what you do, no matter how you do, don't get the churches outside of the civil rights purview of the public accommodations, and implied, otherwise we're going to get you some other way, but we're going to end up getting you. Mr. Speaker, that was a rather disconcerting in the sense that he didn't say yes or no, but he said stay away from getting the churches exempted from the Public Accommodations Commission, which meant it's going to be a field day for the churches if they're under the public accommodations. So to make it unequivocal, it seemed right to bring this out as to what the Attorney General and what the Civil Rights Commission couldn't figure out. This bill, amended as such, will make it very, very clear. I know the Senate is not particularly happy about any of these particular amendments, but doing the right thing is the most important thing, because, Mr. Speaker, we don't want to have every piece of legislation we pass end up in court word for word having to be defended, because that's expensive. And I know some of the churches that at least were here earlier, they spend a lot of their time just doing disclosures and other kinds of affidavits and other discovery, and you know that takes away from their mission, of which is serving the people of Hawaii and serving their other purposes. So, Mr. Speaker, for those reasons, I would encourage the adoption of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Representative McDermott.
Mr. Speaker, the hour is late, so I'd like to incorporate the words from the good representative of Hawaii Kai as my
In
own, sir.
support.
Thank
you very much,
Yes,
Representative McDermott. Representative Fale.
Same request, Mr.
In
Speaker.
support.